to call us now as we run through the topic of discussion through to the top of the hour. You can also send your comments via WhatsApp on 0960 200 490, via standard text message 0960 200 490. You can call on the same number. I'll put you through at a push of a button. That is 0960 200 490. And we appreciate you participating on today's topic of discussion. All right, now let me ask you about inflation. All right, the rate of inflation has been going down. We should be at 13%, if I'm not mistaken.
11.5.
11, eh? I'm actually behind by 2%.
Yes, sure.
We are at 11.5%. What do you think has been driving the rate of inflation down in this country lately, despite things going in the opposite direction?
Well, we are privy to know that the Bank of Zambia has actually been underplaying a critical role in terms of trying to, reduce the impact on the inflation. And if we maybe we have to look at the basis in which they have actually used this. They have actually just hiked the mandate policy rate, which in essence, of course, has tightened credit on the market. But with the case that has been happening also is that it's not only the policy that has taken this shape. Obviously, when you look at the other side of what Bank of Zambia has been doing, they are trying to incentivize the effects on the forex market, of which we have seen that, as I mentioned earlier on, the biggest chunk when it comes to inflation in Zambia roots from the exchange market, and that's the biggest component in this case. So obviously, even when you look at even the base effect that we have also seen, if we make comparison of similar corresponding period of last year and this year, that also has really taken shape in this case. So the basis, all in all, what has really triggered the inflation to take this downward trend also has also been necessitated by the government policies, where they have actually contained some of the expenditure lines in terms of expenditure columns. So there are quite a number of cases that actually have underplayed all these trajectory in terms of inflation patterns. But critical here is that also we have reduced the political atmosphere in terms of risks. And that has really given shape as well to this, because obviously when we have inflation, it has a lot of components to it as well. Yeah.
You talked of the exchange rates corresponding with the downward spiral of the rate of inflation has been the kwacha at which it's appreciating against the dollar. It's been quite bullish, posting gains the last couple of months against the US dollar. What are the main drivers of that?
Okay, the many factors that are actually compounded to what is happening in terms of sentimental appreciation with the kwacha as being the portfolio investors who are participating into government securities, and also, of course, the Bank of Zambia directly trying to intervene into the market, trying to make sure that there is this cushioning power. Obviously, if you look at even the previous month, we had an increase on the fuel. And obviously, Zambia's embraced, a monthly cost fuel calculator, which actually underplaying also an aspect of inflation. So if we had not to intervene, because obviously when you look at the month of April, we would have expected a lot of sparks from inflation. But because there was an heavy intervention from Bank of Zambia in terms of meeting the demand on the forex market, that's the reason why we saw the stability. But when you look at February we had some portfolio investors, flocking so much into the government security, and we've seen that there has been an subscription in terms of participation. So that gives a shape to what is happening. But obviously, yes, there has been some bullish tone in terms of performance on the kwacha, but not to that expectation, of which we have seen that there are also some oscillation taking place on the market as well, losses and gains here and there, of which the biggest factor in this case is that we basically just helping some of these key fundamentals in all these, I would say it is quite justifiable that the Bank of Zambia can actually intervene in this case, because obviously, if we had to let things go loose, we would have found ourselves going in a different direction. Considering that the price of energy are also going up, cost of production also in terms of goods are also going up, and even just the global inflation that is also impacting from there as well. So it's from that basis.
Okay, so now the appreciation going forward, is it sentimental or speculative of the question?
Well, it's a combination of both, but obviously, even if it becomes sentimental, it helps with what we're trying to achieve in terms of economic growth profile. Looking at also what we are trying to see with maybe the IMF as well as other bilateral players, even just the direct foreign direct investors as well. It's something that can work out, because it to tell them not to elude their wealth when it comes to those key indicators on the microeconomic perspective. So it's something that even when you look at it from a perspective of your side, obviously the inflation will not be able to eat into the wealth of your children. So helping the forex market to be able to perform in this direction, it just gives surety to the economy, and it actually gives us a lot of hope to say that maybe something can happen. Even when you look at the others that we are able to see, we are even expecting inflation to even much further towards the target band, looking at the agricultural product that we're going to have. This actually signifies to say that I think we'll be able to record some good numbers on the macroeconomic indicators.
All right, now is this sustainable or probably cosmetic, the appreciation?
The challenge that we have is that the economy has got so much of moving parts in this case. So for us to actually get to a certain level of seeing certain key fundamentals hanging themselves, to perform quite positively, it requires us to actually, do some heavy lifting. So I'm sure that is more reason why I would put it to say it could be both sentimental as well as speculative in a way. But obviously, when you look at the way you are trying to get it, we are in a tough time, and we are trying to just get things, pieces together so that we see how best we can foster economic growth. Yeah, but obviously, when you look at the key fundamental that we need to push, even from the perspective we are seeing things today, we just need to do more productive, focused, centered scheme, other than just looking at trying to control consumer side of things, which in the case, controlling the forex market or trying to work out with the monetary policy rate, which should not be the case. I think even when Bank of Zambia has, thank God that this week they are sitting, starting from today up to tomorrow, trying to suggest the next, rate in which they should be able to peg for the market. Yeah, so with this case, I think even when it comes to the monetary policy rate, it will just be a way to just maintain it and see how best certain things can work out. Because if they hike, it will definitely decapitalize some of the private sector investment schemes, and it will also push a lot of demand for certain things in the consumers. Yeah.
Which economic sector do you think we should focus more in order to spur economic growth for Zambia?
If only we are to harness the fundamentals of agriculture and tourism, these are quite potential sectors that we have never utilized to the fullest capacity. And in any case, we have actually, done injustice to the mining sector, because it has been the main economic base for us. So if we are to look at trying to, complement the factors that the mining have actually been underscoring, it could have helped for us to actually push these two sectors, agriculture as well as tourism, to actually help complement what the mining has been doing. But I think we haven't understood the matrix or the complex that is required there.
Let me pick those sectors one by one. Let me start with mining. As we speak, the mines have some sort of tax concessions at the expense of the locals. And many people have been questioning the logic behind to a certain degree incentivize the mines when they're making supernormal profits owing to high copper prices currently prevailing on the world markets. What you have to say on that?
You know, it's a pity that with the Zambian case, we have a situation where we've got some legitimacy sort of cases like that of KCM and a few others, even when it comes to the way we have taken up Mopani. I think those are really still having some bit of questions to see how best we can sort out this puzzle. But yes, we have a lot of potential for us to, grasp it, considering the prevailing international prices on the market.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have just not done so well is, one, the revenue incoming capacity that we should have built for the mining sector itself. Yes, the mining sector has an international model in terms of how it's supposed to operate. But you believe that when we have copper being mined from here, it goes in its raw form, and it's being recorded as traditional export in the form of maybe a volume of about 1.2 billion, for example, in a particular month, if I may put it in that case. That 1.2 billion cannot eat back into monetary form, and that's why we are having it wrong. And in some sense, that's the reason why we are being put a lot of pressure on our key fundamentals in the economy. So what basically, even when you look at the mining, revenue, it's just basically to look at the tax receipt which we have actually been receiving over time, and maybe the operating cost that eats back into the treasury. So that in itself does not create a balanced trade. Even when you look at the factors of import and export, in our case, there is a huge imbalance, and that's actually creates a lot of issues on the payment of balance as well. So I think it has to look at how best can we get to a proper model in terms of revenue capacity. If we are living in a situation where we compel some of these mining companies to eat money back into the economy and then repatriate the money to their projects, I think that would really help, and it can even give quarter to even about 5 quarter to a single dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. There's been quite a lot of activity in the mining sector in Zambia. At the mining Indaba, which was taking place just a few days back, all right, we are told that First Quantum Minerals is going to inject a further $1.35 billion into their project in Zambia. Well, there are other people that have disputed to say Zambia does not stand to benefit from that 1.35 billion US dollars directly. What do you make of that? The president already has shown, has actually said he is impressed with the 1.3 billion dollars that First Quantum Minerals is planning to pump into the country.
Okay, before maybe I answer that, I would tell you that Zambia in the past 5 years has not received the substantial FDI in terms of trying to pumping some money in the economy. So the 1.3 billion or 1.25 billion is basically just coming in to renew some of the energy that we have actually been expecting in terms of investment culture. You may be privy to say that even when you look at the reserves at some point, it was very poor for us. So if we look at how the mining sector has been performing, I can tell you to say that much of what we have been receiving, even when from Bank of Zambia perspective, in terms of intervention on the market, when the forex go in a negative direction, it's basically the copper receipts that actually really comes to incentivize the pressure on the market. So even when you look at people that are working for the mines, even if they might have small numbers like 8,000 people at Konsanshi mine or with the QFM, basically they have got family which actually multiplies into certain positive effects. So even by extension also we can look at the suppliers, we can look at all these. So and playing the tone to say we cannot benefit from that 1.5, 1.2 billion. I think that is an understatement which should not even be entertained. But in any sense, we basically get a lot of things to come on our sides. And obviously, when you look at even just the way things are underplayed, the mine we consider it to be the main base for economic structure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now, First Quantum Minerals, as I said, did approve plans to invest 1.25 billion US dollars in its long-awaited expansion of Kansanshi operations in Solwezi, as the S3 project and the final 100 million to start its 250 million dollars enterprise nickel project in Kalumbila. All right. Now, nickel is one other mineral that could probably benefit the country significantly. I would want to pick your comments on that one before I move on to the next point. Nickel mining. All right. How profitable is it for an economy like ours in the mining sector?
Well, I think this goes to even say that it's high time for us to seek mineral diversification strategy as well, to just basically bring all the mineral product mixed on the table. And if we have identified that nickel plays a critical role in our economic shape, it's high time for us to look at how best can we gravitate a lot of positive investment into it. Obviously, when you look at even just the way we have done it, we have done it pretty very long to actually focus so much on the copper, and that has really given us even this shape. You see, if you look at even the international market, sometimes when copper goes down, it affects our economy. So if we have a mixture of other mineral base, just to come into the export cup, it could really give us a very good, stance, and we should be able to progress economically very well. Yes.
Okay. So if you want to participate, the number is 0960 200 490. That is 0960 200 490, and we appreciate your participation. If you choose to call in, or also if you choose to send that WhatsApp message and that standard text message. All right, now from FQM, let me take you to KCM, Mr. Chisanga. All right, now Vedanta Resources last week offered to step up investment in Zambia's Konkola copper mines and implement several social responsibility programs if it resumes control of the local firm, we are told. Before I have you comment on KCM, let me get a hold of this call. All right, okay, here we go. Kindly give us your name and where you are calling us from. Mr. Luendo, please go ahead. Oh, you are impressed with FQM? Okay. All right. Thank you for coming through, Mr. Luendo. Okay. So Mr. Luendo there is impressed with what FQM intends to do, injecting a further $1.35 billion into their mining operations in that expansion project. It's called the S3 project, we are told. 0960 200 490. Vedanta Resources. I did draw you to
maybe just to add on the FQM injection.
Okay.
Basically, this expansion will add about 25% expansion level, and it will also extend up
25% from their current
from the
operations.
Current, yes,
okay.
and it will extend up to 2040. So that signifies, long-term ownership in terms of investment. And it tells to say that, yes, we've got someone who's sustainable in terms of investment in this sector. Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about Vedanta. Uh, they want to step up investment in Zambia's Konkola copper mines and implement several social responsibility programs if it resumes control of the local firm. From the look of things, government plans to settle out of court their differences with KCA. What do you have to say on that?
Well, I think to start with, maybe the basis here is that in the first place we wouldn't have gone to this level. What was supposed to actually have happened is that this was a commercial case. Probably we should have found a solution to work around with it. Yeah, but again, also this signifies to give us a better platform for us to start negotiating how we should work out with the mining sector when it comes to social corporate responsibilities, and even when we look at issues with environmental aspects, social matters as well, even in relation to governance, framework. I think it's time for us to have this as a wake-up call to see how we can align some of these policies around the mine so that we can fully benefit from them. Yes.
0960-200-490. That is 0960-200-490. Let me get a call before I move on to my next question for today's topic of discussion. Beth and Yurenda, thank you very much for tuning in from Mutendere East. Warren Siame, you're watching live from Mpika. Thank you very much, Warren in Mpika, for tuning in. Okay, all right, so here we go, the next caller. You're through to the program. Good morning. That sounds like Greg. Please go ahead, Mr. Greg in Solwezi. FQM, you're quite closer to FQM, Greg, eh? How did you receive that news that they want to expand their investment in Zambian copper mining? Okay, thank you, Greg. What to make of Greg's suggestion? Yeah, they before the change of government, when Vedanta were leaving, they say they were posting losses. Now, what has changed now? All of a sudden, are they going to be posting profits now that there's a different government in place, substantive government in place? Let me get another call before I have a comment on Greg's observation. All right, you're through to the program. Good morning. How are you, sir?
This is Bill, Peter Mwana.
Please go ahead, Mr. BM.
Yes, Matanga Marisha.
Bwino balishanu kwai.
Thank you. Matanga, I think this is not my first time to listen to you.
Okay.
You have been analyzing these mining issues so well, such that if maybe we were following the way we have been analyzing, I think Zambia would have been the second super in the world.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
I want just to continue from where my brother just left.
Sure.
Why bring a company or a person like Vendetta who claimed that he never makes profit? When Lorenzo is on the radio, even the way he speaks, we, the listeners, we get even, we get energized to say we need to listen to the programs of Lorenzo. Just the way he talks, he encourages even us as listeners.
Okay.
Why should you bring a person with his problems that he claimed that he never makes a profit? If the government is good listening, let them do away with the vendetta. I believe there are still some people who can invest in KCM and they can start making profit. Because for the vendetta to say that he doesn't make profit, which means he has got his own problem. We don't want him to come and push the problem to the Zambians who will be working with him. Let the government find the people who can benefit and they can also make the Zambians enjoy and they'll be working at that time. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. BM, for coming through. Okay. All right. So BM echoes what Gray did submit. All right. So what has changed, really? What dynamics have changed for them to want the mine back, which was posting losses for them just over a year ago?
Well, I think in the first place, I'll agree with their sentiment, and I'm with them 100%. Yeah, but obviously, when you look at even just the political atmosphere, as well as just the environment in terms of investment for Zambia, I think was a little bit hostile. I did mention to say that in the past 5 years, Zambia has not attracted any substantial foreign direct investors or investment, all because there were a lot of overheating factors in the economy. So considering what has maybe turned out to be prevailing at the moment, where we've got a calm political situation and even few promises in terms of prospection, when you look at the investment culture, I think it has given them a different look altogether. But again, also, we should be able to take advantage in our case to say, okay, with this prevailing right this moment, can we restructure and remodel some of these policies so that they can now start speaking right into this direction? I think it calls for us, because if you see, in as much as I would also love to have a new investor coming into KCM, it will take a bit of time for us to start now seeing dividends. And if we also look at even just the way things have actually been, those guys are already on the ground, they know where to touch here and there. What we just need is to see how best can we bring forth an aspect of trying to censor some of the loopholes that they have used over time, so that we can work on those. Probably also come up with the robust policy infrastructure that should be able to govern so strongly on the mining sector, because that's where we depend ourselves. That's why, if anything, yes, KCM and Opani, these have got potential to produce about 1.5 million metric tons in terms of copper output. And we are talking of having 3 million, metric tons, which is sustainable with the cases that we are looking at. So if we are to model some of these and look at trying to restructure our mining policy, I think that can really help, and it should be able to actually push us somewhere.
Okay. 096 200 490. That is 0960 200 490. Let your voice be heard and make a contribution on the program as we look at the state of the economy with my guest, Mr. Kelvin M. Chisanga. All right, it's 10:38 Central African Time. I did ask you to highlight key sectors you think might help spur economic growth for Zambia. You named mining. You also did mention agriculture. Now, agriculture, in a way, I feel we are not necessarily utilizing it to its full potential for us to benefit as we ought to, considering the vast potential in terms of water resource as well as arable land at our disposal. Do you agree with me on that score,
Yes,
Mr.
sure.
Isank?
Yeah, sure. You see, you're talking of valuable rand, which is sitting at 40%, and you're talking of potential that is also sitting with our geographical location. And if you even also look at our population in terms of demographic profile or dividends, we are talking of over 70% of youth who are even not now employed. So that's already resourceful energy that we can use. So I think we just need to reshape our mindset and see how best can we gravitate positive attitude toward agriculture. And if you look at countries like Rwanda, countries like Malawi, and even Kenya itself, and a few other, many others, even South Africa as we speak, they have depended so much into agriculture, and that is what is actually even driving the economy. If you look at agriculture, it can be a very powerful resource in terms of primary industry, objectives for the nation to even just augment some of the challenges that we have actually been facing. The only challenge that we have is that, yes, at a small scale, even we have actually done our best in that sense, but we have never explored the vertical integration process where we should be able to turn this into value addition. I think that's what also we are left with, which need to be also looked at. I like the idea of the Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry and few other, even the SME Minister. They are looking at talking of value addition. I think it's time for us to charter this direction so that we're able to see how best can we tap from there. Because if we cultivate the culture of having value addition, it will really help and it will cement some of the gaps that we have, even key fundamentals that we've actually been looking forward to score. We should be able to score from there. Yes.
Okay, let me get hold of our next caller before I make a follow-up question to you. All right, 0960 200 490. That is the number you can reach us on right on the program. Okay, so here we go with our next caller. You're through to Chatback.
Hello, morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chilonda.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And how are you doing?
Yes.
Okay, please go ahead, sir.
First of all, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, our economy can only go working together.
Sure.
When we talk about mining, I've been working at mining before in the Southern Government, where we have ZPCM and Anglo American running mines in our country. And that it was the Zambia government owned 51%, 49% owned by investors. And Zambia at that time built cleaning, even the principle started from Copper Belt. You say that there was a problem where misusing funds because when we talk about Zambia Airways, the money was coming from ZCCM. Your business, nothing. It was Eteco and Eteco. These were companies, industries. And what I want this guy now, let we own the share in our money at 51%. And the those investors got 49%. If some person I want to go there, can also benefit from the same our dollars. And then what we are talking here, low income country. When you are forgetting minerals, why somebody is going to get involved with the so much? Let us own our minerals, our natural resources, including food, including tourism. For us, what we need is to fight poverty, to see the poor person say, I'm getting 3 times better. That's our motto. I think that's the better.
Thank you for coming through, Mr. Mulonda. More of a general comment from Mr. Mulonda there. Thank you very much for your comments. 0960 200 490. That is 0960 200 490. Here we go with our next caller. You're through to Chatback. Good morning. Please give us your name and where you're calling from.
Okay, I'm Mr. Kawasu from Dola.
Mr. Cavasso, please go ahead.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to comment on
Okay.
I think the president and his team must consult the people of Zambia. This issue is very, very, very important and very sensitive. Many Zambians have watched how that guy was posting on the streets of London. I don't know whether cities of London or India, how he made a killing out of KCM. And then the man was saying he was not making profits from that mine, and that led to him not paying certain obligations. That's how he lost all of that mine. But what is so special now? Is he going to make profits now? Where is the profit going to come from, which he failed to make at that time? So I think the government should wake up and not allow that man to come through. Some of these things, I think, I don't know where we've gone wrong as Zambians. Why we always want to give our natural resources to foreigners? These people, they will not develop this country. What will develop this country is us, Zambians. Now this takes me to this other thing that I want to talk about. You know, we are very disorganized as a country because of politics. In this country, you've seen what is happening. There are a lot of threatening statements, people being arrested here and there, you know, investigations right, left and center. Whoever's got money, whether he worked in government or he was a contractor or a businessman, is facing charges. These things are creating shocks in the economy. No wonder you are seeing money scarce and scared. You know, people who understand economics, like my brother there, will tell you that when you go to stock markets, a single statement can crash a certain currency by a pronouncement. So these are some of the things that are happening. There are so many negative statements from government officials on the economy of this country. You know, Bible says the tongue has got life and death. The things that we speak about this country, the contemporary of what we are going through, we need to be mindful of the statements and statements that we are trying to say when we are to put things forward. We need to, I think, we need to sober up and start empowering our Zambian people to start doing things. These foreigners we are giving power. One day, they will rule us. I end there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kabaso, for coming through. All right, 10:47 Central African Time. I would want to get your concluding remarks, Mr. Tsanga, owing that we're running out of time. All right, how would you wrap up today's discussion? Quite all right, we've been heavily hinged on mining because it's a very critical sector, all right, when it comes to talking about our economy in Zambia. One more call before you give your concluding remarks. All right, you're through to the program.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Your name, please, and where you're calling from.
This is Vincent. I'm calling from Ghana.
Innocent, please go ahead.
I wanted to make a comment concerning our current economy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. The subject is what the president has been saying concerning bringing in investment and also incorporating local contractors as well.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I've realized is Zambians have got the potential to be productive and benefit the economy in each and every sector.
Mm-hmm.
For example, mining and agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the problem is the capacity. The potential is there, but the capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure the president has been saying all along with we want investors to come in, work hand in hand with Zambians, and Zambians who are going to grow to the capacity where they can run these mines and these huge farms. Then they can even their own shares in running such companies company that invests there. So I think at that rate, I'm not sure South Africa, most people will go around saying Gambians are fighting for the dump site and investors are fighting for the money. The thing is this, who among us Gambians has got the billions of dollars that are needed to run this very mine. So I think we need to appreciate the president for the effort, and the effort is to at least to make sure we can contribute to the economy at individual level. I think that's what I can say for now, without taking much of the time.
Okay, thank you for coming through. Okay, all right. And the other point, as you conclude, sir, I would want you to also comment on what Mr. Kabas was saying, that the government should listen to the Zambian people regarding KCM. So, in your concluding remarks, touch that as well as our previous callers' comments.
Okay, maybe to begin with, I just loved the way the new government is actually doing when it comes to business. In as much as they are business sensitive, leaders, they have actually even come up with the public-private dialogue forum, which actually entails that we have some discussion around business-government relationship. And obviously, yes, coming from that background, you should be able to look at policy formulation to actually critically benefit all stakeholders involved, whether employee, shareholders, even the government themselves, even just the regulatory framework as well. So I think it's from that basis. Yeah, so with the way things are going, yes, I'll actually echo with the caller to mention so that for us to make a decisive decision on this case of KCM, we need to look through various opinions that could actually come on the table and see which one can be substantially good for us in terms of this investment. Then coming back to what the other caller mentioned in terms of landing our economic wheels. Yes, we have the capacity to actually learn some of these things, but sometimes also it's inevitable to say that we've got a financial issue that we could actually see from there. Right this moment, we are 100% learning Mopani, but Mopani needs a capitalization of about $300 million into the project. So even if it might be traced, but are we able to actually sustain the operations? Because obviously it is coming from the background where we are dealing how to privatize some of these companies. So we have to look at it in that context. Maybe the other typical example is we have also done injustice to the mining itself. Look at 2008 up to date. We have changed tax policy in the mining sector for about 10 times within 15 years, which is not supposed to be the case. It's not sustainable. And mining being the main base for economic profile, that already puts us in a lot of disarray. So what we need to do is to see how best can we bring forth a substantial, and sustainable policy guideline that should be able to sustain much of what we're depending on, because we are being fed from the mine. The mine underplays a number of things in the economy. Then coming back to how we should have actually lay some of these things in this sector, or even just in our nation. I think education also has done injustice to Zambia. If we are to look at even learning some of these things that are currently taking shape, or things that could actually apply, that could really help us in a way. I think if you look at the pattern that we have embraced with the education policy, has not really done a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to pushing forward our economic fundamentals. If you even look at the current level of education, it doesn't even speak so much. So I think there's a need for us also to look at education as a framework to be upscaled, so that it should be speaking into practicalities. What we have done in ourselves is that we are too theoretical, and that has really killed the nation. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chisanga, would like to appreciate you having made an appearance on the program. We hope to call you back pretty soon so that we continue engaging the nation on matters of national interest.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Pleasure. We have news coming up at 11. Then Chipo picks it up with today's edition of Lifestyle. Enjoy the rest of our programming, and God richly bless you. I'll be having William Murphy driving us to the top of the hour. right on today's program. Stay tuned, and God richly bless you. You have to catch me on Wednesday, all right, for another edition of Chatback, as we get to keep interacting a little bit more.